Hey Harmonizers, it's time to take a look at Pretzel having her first session after coming back from my accident that I had in Pennsylvania where we had that really traumatic fall. And there was a lot of speculation, is this horse traumatized? How's she going to be? Because the last thing that essentially happened was somebody was using a whip to make another horse rear behind her, not too far away, scared her into a run. I fell off. And then somebody who was a stranger to her, a good stranger, took her out to just finish on a good note with her groundwork, but has not been ridden since. And it is now about 4 to 5 weeks after the fact. That is not me that is working with her because I have not been cleared to work with horses at this point. But that is Sarah, who's a staff member, and offered to do a training session with her just to see where she's at. We wanted to run her through the paces. And as you can see, she's being really sticky with doing this trot jump on the ground. And the trot jump is just one of the pieces of groundwork that we wanted to do. We did other pieces before here. But it's a great little test to see if your horse is ready to ride, because if your horse is sticky when they're jumping, and that's because of the saddle flapping, the stirrups flapping, all that kind of stuff, then they're not quite ready for you to ride yet. So we worked on getting this a lot smoother to make sure that she was really comfortable with the saddle, really comfortable with the stirrups flapping at her side, because of when the jump happens, that's just kind of how it all goes down. It's also just about managing your energy and being comfortable with your human, because if you can't do this, then chances are the ride would not have gone as well. But you can see that jump there finished up really, really well. And of course we did some other groundwork with her. I didn't video necessarily all of it because I didn't want to make this video ridiculously long for you guys, but this is now a little bit of the mounting block work, just showing you Sarah using that. Now, most of the time when I have been mounting Pretzel, I actually mount from the ground, and that's just because I think it helps to just make sure the horse is totally okay with you putting weight on either side of their body. But she wanted to do a little bit on the mounting block, make sure that we can lean on her like this and give her the cookie from the other side, just make sure she's feeling pretty good. So we checked in with a lot of these basics and fundamental skills that are so important. If you're not sure about all of the fundamental skills as you're starting a horse, I totally recommend checking out our Starting from Scratch online course, which you can get through harmonyhorsemanshipacademy.org. That's our online horse school that we have that goes through a lot of these different courses, and we have one specifically related to starting from scratch. And you can see she did that really, really well. And then she brought her out here to mount from the ground, because again, it just helps put that weight on either side of the horse to make sure that they're feeling really good. And you can see she does it slowly, carefully, sits there, offers that cookie. And you can see Pretzel kind of drops the cookie to start with. And so what that means to me is like not as relaxed as she should be. So she gets another cookie there. And then instead of going off right away to ride, it's just, let's hang out for a minute. Let's hang out and relax. A big part of the Harmony Horsemanship program is taking the time to let your horse relax and do those licks and chews that you were seeing there. And even after she had those big licks and chews, we did more of the reaching from side to side, the bending, and you can see how much better that is now. She's bending her head so softly, licking, chewing, wanting those cookies, and looking much more relaxed. And so a huge part of the reason why we have such success is we're really trying to educate people, slow down, make sure your horse is totally relaxed and understanding. And then you can see she has these little moments where she does these little scooty shuffles. Not like really scooting, like she's not like galloping forward or anything like that, but she's doing these kind of awkward steps forward because, this is the first ride in a really long time. There's, horses that are green like her where they get started walk, trot, under saddle, and then if they go 4 to 5 weeks off, they are a little bit sticky coming back into training because their training wasn't super solidified. So it's kind of like if you went to school in like kindergarten and you were learning your letters of the alphabet and you were starting to learn to spell some little words and you didn't quite master it yet. Like you knew a bunch of your letters, but you didn't quite have the spelling part totally down. And then if you took 5 weeks off from that, because it's not really solid in your brain, it's going to be a little slow to come back. If you come back after 5 weeks of not doing any letters or any spelling, it's going to be not quite there. So a lot of times when we're doing training of horses, it's nice if we can just stay consistent until they've got the walk, trot, canter all happening, because when you do it too spread out, it just takes significantly longer because there's all these refreshes in there. You can see there's a little cat that of course is going around in the ring, but she did really well. And so as Sarah's patient with her, that walk starts to look better. So you saw the little scooty scrambles in the beginning, which is the horse telling you, hey, like, I'm a little tense, this is a little worrisome. So you just take it slow and easy. That's not the time to put your legs on the horse and say, come on, let's get going. That's just going to make your horse really get going and going in a bad way. So instead, it's just like sitting there, staying polite and saying, like, we're continuing to go. And you can see it's like a little sticky there. And she's got, these moments where she stops and she goes. And so when she stops, Sarah just pauses and then it's like, oh, great, let's try walking again. And so she's trying to get that rhythm, because you want to get the horse consistently moving forward so that way they can finally breathe and lick and chew while in forward motion. So you don't want to do a lot of short steps. If you can, you want to try to get moving a little bit, but not where you're aggressively getting after the horse using a lot of pressure, because that's likely going to push the horse into more of a bolt, fight or flight frame of mind, because she's saying, I'm worried, is this a problem? And Sarah's just like, nope, it's no big deal. And so we have a lot of success with starting young horses and helping horses that are coming from that second chance kind of home, because we do things really smoothly, relaxed. We take our time and we give that horse the time they need to process, oh, you know what, I'm okay. Like this was not the end of the world and everything's just fine. And so you can see she's getting some cookies along the way after giving good stretches of going. And so I did a little cut in the footage there just because she had done a lot of going around. And you can see with her really round belly, like some people were saying, Lindsay, you should have done your girth up ridiculously tight and you wouldn't have fallen off, your saddle wouldn't have slipped and you wouldn't have fallen off at the horse show. It's like, well, maybe, but like this isn't a thoroughbred with big withers. This is a very round Mustang. There's Mustangs that come with different types of withers and hers are not super pronounced. So I would have had to have that like super snugged up with like an anti-slip pad or something, and that can make it uncomfortable for the horse too. So it's all a little bit hit or miss when you've got a really round tubby horse. The horses with withers are easier for a saddle to stay stable because they have something to kind of grip on either side. In her case, not so much, but that's okay. She'll make a good bareback horse in the future. And you can see now Sarah's doing a little bit of work with moving her hips or moving her shoulders, all that kind of stuff, to making sure that she understands these cues for moving her legs, moving her buttons. And you can see another little cat walking by in the distance there. So going behind her, it's heading over to see me, who's filming. And you can see she's moving the different body parts, but pretty slowly, like doing a little bit, taking a pause, and then doing a little bit and taking a pause. So here she's asking her to move again. And so she's just checking in with her ability to understand the different cues and go off of that leg as well, to make sure she knows that the leg doesn't just mean go. Your leg is a way to communicate, and it's a way to say, hey, I want you to move off the pressure this way, or I want you to move off the pressure that way. So she's really understanding all of those pieces. You can see another little cookie there, pretty relaxed, taking that nice bend in the neck, took the cookie no problem. So all of that is increasing the motivation, but also showing us that she's feeling pretty good about this training session and slowly getting more and more relaxed throughout the session. You can see with her buttons, she's doing really well with moving those different body parts. She's trying really hard. And as she's going, you can see she gets some nice crossing of those back legs, which is another sign that she's feeling relaxed. If a horse is not crossing their back legs, then usually they're guarding themselves a little bit. It could be that maybe they're feeling a little stiff, but usually it's a little bit of guarding. So when they are actually crossing those legs, it's letting us know that they're feeling more relaxed in their body, more relaxed in their mind, and it's giving lots of great feedback that she's actually doing really, really well. So it's really awesome that Sarah was able to get this first ride going. We're going to show you some more really cool stuff in a second where we get the poles involved, but we didn't want to skip any of these fundamental movements along the way because we wanted to make sure that she was feeling relaxed And then it was really nice that she put this ride on her, so that way we could make sure, she's not totally traumatized. She still remembers things. She's still good for riding. Like, there's some really cute little sideways that she's doing there. So there's lots of things that Pretzel's doing super awesome right now. Her last experience was not the best ending that one could wish for. It was really nice that I did have somebody, that Jen did take her out after the fact and at least do groundwork, so she didn't get left on a totally bad note out in Pennsylvania. But overall, her last ride did not end ideal because I came off and the saddle had to be readjusted because the saddle had slipped on her. And then she was taken out and had to wait for that session with Jen later after the fact. And so this is now the first ride back. So this now you can see a little bit of more walking around the arena, and now we're going to get some poles involved. And during the session, our thoughts were, let's see how she's doing. Let's start with groundwork. Let's go through her riding basics, see where she's at. And then I thought, well, let's get some poles involved and do a little bit where she has to think about her feet a little bit. And then we didn't think that we would get to trotting. That was not kind of the main goal of the session. I wanted to just make sure it was totally relaxed, totally easy for her, and that she's kind of going back to her regular training. So that here now comes our side pass pole, and this has a really important part to it because of what happened in the accident. So here's the side pass right, which was the first way that Sarah asked her to go sideways, and look at the little scramble that she did coming off of that. Isn't that interesting? So the reason why that's super interesting and why this is so important is because the last thing I remember from the accident that happened in Pennsylvania is I remember side passing my pool noodles, and I remember side passing to the left successfully the first time and giving her a cookie for doing it. And then I remember straddling the pool noodles and starting my side pass right. And I remember her being slow and remember I'm just going to take it slow. And that's the last thing I remember. So as far as I know, I was backwards to the person doing the rear with the whip. And my horse was in the middle of going sideways over the noodles. And the combination of everything, the whip, the horse rearing, my horse being scared she was going to get potentially whipped or whatever was going on, combined with being asked to do something tricky over top of the pool noodles, would be very challenging, very upsetting. And then now we're going back to the sideways over a pole, and that was sideways right that she did that. Sideways left looked pretty good. And so now Sarah's going to bring around and do that sideways right again. So it was interesting that that's the last thing I remember. And then this just kind of added to, for me, thinking, okay, that must be what happened. I must have been in the middle of doing my side pass right over my noodles, plus, the person doing the rear trick, which caused her to get so upset. And there's a bunch of you guys that have commented about, that rear person and the whipping and whatnot. And so I want you to know that this was all before the show kind of was officially starting or anything like that. The show officials weren't even around. The judge or anything wasn't there yet. We were just in the warm-up arena because it's at the fairgrounds, and the fairgrounds is open basically 24/7. You can go there whenever you want. And so we got there early because I wanted to be to give Pretzel enough time to figure out how to incorporate riding into our freestyle routine, and I wanted her to be able to have a break in between as well. And so we were there so early that it was before a lot of the officials. So I don't want any blame placed on the officials or the judge or anything like that, because the stewards and stuff weren't even around to know, what was going on. And so it's a really tricky situation for sure. So you can see we're repeating this sideways over a pole a few times, trying to get it really relaxed. And this is one of the key things with Harmony Horsemanship as well, is to repeat until your horse is relaxed, because you want them in a place where they're feeling really good about what they just did. And you want to leave your horse being like, yeah, I did it. I accomplished that. We don't want to leave them feeling anxious, because then we're just going to come back anxious the next time as well. And look at Pretzel's expression. She took the cookie so easily. She has her head really relaxed. Her whole rhythm's really relaxed. She's licking and chewing, which means that she's present the whole time in a thinking state, not an emotional state. Her ears keep flicking back towards Sarah to ask those questions of what would you like me to do? where would you like to go? And you can see Sarah's using her legs nice and gently to ask her to go and figure out. You can see that's my daughter playing with the cats and the sand in the background the whole time. So while this is all going on, there's, a little bit of chaos going around in the barn as well, but that's just kind of normal for Pretzel because she was trained a lot during our summer camp, so she knows about busyness and kids and all that kind of stuff. It's just been a few weeks since all of that. So Sarah rides her all the way down to the far end of the arena, and we're feeling really good about this ride. So we accomplished a lot of things. We definitely saw some sticky moments in there and worked through them until we found relaxation. So we hit that with the jump, with the sideways over the pole, even just with the walking, all of those things we got really, really smooth. So we did not push for a trot. We decided to leave the ride here because that's a great note. Made me think, okay, like that's really great. We can probably find her a good home now because we show that you can still ride her. So this is her now putting on a rain sheet and wearing that outside for the first time because now we're getting into that cold, wet weather. And then this is Pretzel out in the field with her buddies, and you can see it's already raining. You can kind of see it in the screen there, the little bit of rain coming down, but she's got her rain sheet on, looking really good. And so my thoughts after this were, I can't train her right now, so let's find her a new home. So I'll keep you posted. Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.